The woman stumbled into the ranch yard just as the sun began its descent behind the Colorado mountains, her dress torn and caked with so much dirt that its original color remained a mystery. Her face marked with purple bruises that told stories no mouth should have to speak. Phillip Foster had been mending fence posts near the main house when he spotted her, swaying on her feet like a willow in a strong wind, barely upright. He dropped his tools and ran, reaching her just as her knees buckled. She collapsed into his arms, light as a bird despite being a grown woman, and he could feel her trembling against his chest. "Easy now," he murmured, adjusting his hold to carry her properly. "I have got you. You are safe here." Her eyes fluttered open briefly, revealing irises the color of storm clouds before closing again. Phillip carried her toward the house, his boots crunching on the dry earth. His ranch hand, Thomas, emerged from the barn and stopped short at the sight. "Get Doc Morrison from town," Phillip called out. "Fast as you can." Thomas nodded and sprinted toward the stables. Phillip shouldered open the door to his home, a modest but well-kept dwelling he had built himself 5 years prior when he first claimed this land. He carried the woman to his bedroom and laid her gently on the quilt his mother had sewn before her passing. She stirred slightly, a small whimper escaping her cracked lips. Phillip noticed her feet then, bare and bleeding, torn up so badly he winced at the sight. Whatever distance she had traveled, she had done so without shoes, and the Colorado terrain was unforgiving. He moved to his washstand and poured fresh water from the pitcher into the basin, grabbed clean cloths from his chest of drawers, and returned to her bedside. Kneeling on the wooden floor, he carefully lifted one of her feet, supporting it over the basin. The water ran brown and red as he gently cleaned away the dirt and blood, working with a tenderness that surprised even himself. "Who did this to you?" he whispered, though she could not answer in her current state. The bruises on her face were fresh, perhaps a day old at most. Her knuckles were scraped raw, suggesting she had fought back against whoever had hurt her. As he cleaned her other foot, being careful around what looked like a deep cut on her heel, her eyes opened again. This time they stayed open, watching him with a mixture of fear and confusion. "Please," she croaked, her voice like gravel, "please do not send me back." Phillip met her gaze steadily. "Nobody is sending you anywhere you do not want to go. You are safe here, I promise you that." A single tear tracked through the dust on her cheek. He reached for another cloth, dampened it, and carefully wiped her face. She flinched at first, then slowly relaxed as she realized he meant no harm. "What is your name?" he asked softly. "Anna," she whispered. "Anna Sinclair." "I am Phillip Foster. This is my ranch about 10 miles outside of Clifton Hill. You are in Colorado, in case you are not sure where you ended up." She nodded slightly. "I knew I was in Colorado. I have been walking for 2 days. 2 days without shoes through this country." Phillip felt anger rise in his chest at whoever had driven her to such desperation. He finished cleaning her feet and reached for the tin of salve he kept for treating injuries on his horses. It would work just as well on her wounds. "This might sting," he warned before applying the ointment. She bit her lip but did not cry out as he worked, spreading the salve carefully over each cut and scrape. When he finished, he tore strips from an old shirt and wrapped her feet gently. "Thank you," Anna said, her voice already stronger than when she had first spoken. "You are very kind." Phillip sat back on his heels, looking at her properly now that some of the dirt had been cleared from her face. Even battered and bruised, she was beautiful. He guessed her to be in her early 20s, perhaps 23 or 24. Her dark hair hung in tangled waves past her shoulders, and despite the ordeal she had clearly suffered, there was strength in the set of her jaw. "I sent my man for the doctor. He should be here within the hour," Phillip said, rising to his feet. Can you tell me what happened? Who hurt you?" Anna's expression hardened. "My husband, former husband. I left him 3 days ago. He gave you those bruises. Those and many others you cannot see." She pulled herself into a sitting position, wincing. "I stayed too long, believed too many promises that things would change. When he came home drunk and pulled his gun, talking about how if he could not have me, nobody would, I knew I had to leave right then. I climbed out the bedroom window after he passed out and I just started running." Philip felt his jaw tighten. He had never understood men who raised their hands to women. His own father had taught him that a real man protected those weaker than himself, never preyed upon them. "Where did you run from?" "A mining camp about 30 miles north of here. I stayed off the main roads, traveled at night mostly. I lost my shoes in a creek when I had to wade across. The current was stronger than I expected." "You are lucky you made it here alive," Philip said. "This country is not kind to those traveling alone and unprepared." "I know." Anna looked down at her bandaged feet. "I know I was lucky. When I saw your ranch, I thought I was seeing a mirage at first. I used the last of my strength to make it to your gate." A knock at the front door interrupted them. Philip went to answer it, finding Thomas had returned with Doc Morrison, a silver-haired man of about 60 who had been practicing medicine in Clifton Hill since before Philip was born. "Thomas said you have an injured woman," the doctor said, carrying his black leather bag. "What happened?" "She can tell you herself," Philip replied, leading him to the bedroom. "I will give you privacy to examine her." He stepped out into the main room, closing the door behind him. Thomas stood awkwardly by the fireplace. "That will be all for today," Philip told him. "Go on home to your family. I will see you in the morning." After Thomas left, Philip paced the floor, his mind racing. Anna Sinclair had run from an abusive husband and landed on his doorstep. The right thing to do was offer her shelter until she recovered and could decide her next move. But the way his heart had jumped when those storm-gray eyes had focused on him, the protective surge he had felt seeing her injuries, that was something else entirely. The bedroom door opened and Doc Morrison emerged, shaking his head. "That woman has been through hell." Bruised ribs, bruises covering most of her torso, signs of old injuries that healed poorly. Her feet will take weeks to fully heal. She needs rest, good food, and safety. "She can stay here," Philip said immediately, "as long as she needs." The doctor studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I gave her some laudanum for the pain. She will sleep soon. Keep those feet clean and change the bandages daily. If you see any sign of infection, fetch me immediately. I will check on her again in a few days." After the doctor left, Philip returned to the bedroom. Anna was still sitting up, though her eyelids looked heavy. "The doctor says you need to rest," Philip said gently. "This is my room. I will sleep in the main room." "I cannot take your bed," Anna protested weakly. "You already are." He pulled the quilt up over her lap. "Do not argue. You need proper rest." She looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. "Why are you being so kind to me? You do not even know me." Philip thought about that for a moment. "Because someone should have been kind to you long before now. Because you deserve kindness. Because it is the right thing to do. Most men would not see it that way. Then most men are fools." He moved toward the door, then paused and looked back at her. "Anna, you are safe here. I give you my word. Rest now." Her eyes were already closing as the laudanum took effect. "Precious," she murmured, so quietly he almost missed it. "What, you called me precious? When you were washing my feet, I heard you whisper it." Her words slurred together as sleep claimed her. "Nobody ever called me that before." Philip stood frozen in the doorway. He had not realized he had spoken aloud, had not been aware of whispering anything. But she was right. Looking at her broken and bruised, so vulnerable yet so strong to have survived what she had, The word had slipped from his lips unbidden. He closed the door softly and went to make a bed for himself on the floor by the fireplace. The next morning, Philip woke to find sunlight streaming through the windows. He rose stiffly from his makeshift bed and started a fire in the stove to make breakfast. He was frying eggs and bacon when he heard movement from the bedroom. Anna appeared in the doorway, leaning heavily on the frame. She had managed to wash her face and hands more thoroughly and had attempted to comb her hair with her fingers. The bruises on her face looked darker today, purple and yellow spreading across her cheekbone. "You should be resting," Philip said, moving to help her. "I have rested enough. I need to move or I will go mad." She limped to the table and lowered herself carefully into a chair. "Something smells wonderful. When did you last eat?" "I had some wild berries yesterday morning. Before that, I am not sure. A day, maybe 2. Philip loaded a plate with eggs, bacon, and thick slices of bread, setting it before her along with a cup of coffee. She stared at it like he had presented her with a feast. "Thank you," she said softly, and began to eat. She tried to pace herself, but he could see how hungry she was. He made his own plate and sat across from her. They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Anna spoke again. "I need to figure out what I am going to do. I cannot impose on your hospitality forever." "You are not imposing. Stay as long as you need to recover." "And then what?" Anna set down her fork. "I have no money, no possessions except the dress on my back. I cannot go back to the mining camp." "James will be looking for me. James is your husband." "Was. I do not care what the law says. I am not his wife anymore." Her voice was fierce. "I would rather die than go back to him." Philip leaned back in his chair, thinking. "Can you cook, clean, do household tasks?" Anna nodded slowly. "Yes. I kept house for James, though nothing I did was ever good enough for him." "Then stay on as my housekeeper. I will pay you fair wages. The work is not hard, just cooking and cleaning and maybe helping with the vegetable garden. When you have saved enough money, if you want to move on, you can. But you would have a roof over your head and safety in the meantime." She studied him carefully. "Why would you do this for me? What do you want in return?" The question stung, though he understood why she asked it. "I want nothing except an honest day's work for honest pay. I am not James, Anna. I will not hurt you." Tears welled in her eyes. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it. Give me a chance to prove it to you." He stood and began clearing the plates. "But first, you need to heal. No working until those feet can bear your weight properly and those ribs stop aching." Over the following days, they fell into an easy rhythm. Philip would rise early to tend to his cattle and horses, check on his small herd, and mend fences or handle whatever tasks the ranch demanded. He would return at midday to check on Anna, bring her meals, and change the bandages on her feet. Anna proved to be more stubborn than her injuries. By the 3rd day, despite Philip's protests, she insisted on sitting at the table to peel vegetables for stew. By the 5th day, she was hobbling around the kitchen, cooking simple meals. By the end of the 1st week, she was moving more easily, though she still winced when she thought he was not looking. They talked during those meals, sharing stories of their lives. Philip learned that Anna had grown up in Missouri, the daughter of a school teacher who had died when she was 16. Her mother had passed in childbirth when Anna was only 10. She had married James Hartley at 18, believing his promises of a good life in the Colorado mining camps. "He was different when we courted," she said one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and pink. "Charming, attentive. Or maybe I just saw what I wanted to see. I had no family left, no prospects. Marriage seemed like the answer." "When did it change?" Philip asked gently. "Almost immediately after the wedding. The first time he hit me was on our wedding night when I asked him to be gentler." She spoke matter-of-factly, but Philip saw her hands tremble slightly. It only got worse from there. The drink made it worse, but even when he was sober, there was cruelty in him. Philip felt anger burn in his chest but kept his voice calm. "How long were you married?" 5 years. 5 years too long. Anna pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders. "I tried to leave twice before. The first time, he found me before I made it out of the camp. The second time, one of the other miners brought me back, said a wife belonged with her husband. James broke my arm that time. I am sorry you went through that. Do not be sorry. Just be glad I finally had the courage to run far enough that he cannot find me." She turned to look at him. "I mean it, Philip. You saved my life by taking me in. I will work hard to repay that kindness." "You do not owe me anything," he said firmly. "We have an arrangement, that is all. Fair work for fair pay." But even as he said it, he knew it was more than that. Over the past week, he had found himself looking forward to their conversations, to seeing her smile when something pleased her, to the way she hummed while cooking. She was funny and intelligent, with a sharp wit that surfaced when she felt comfortable enough to let her guard down. He was falling for her, and he knew it was dangerous. She had just escaped one bad marriage. The last thing she needed was another man making demands on her heart. 2 weeks after Anna's arrival, Thomas came riding up to the house in the late afternoon, his expression troubled. "Mr. Foster, there is a man at the property line asking about a woman. Says his wife ran off, and he has reason to believe she might have come this way." Anna, who had been in the kitchen, appeared in the doorway, her face pale. "James," she whispered. Philip stood immediately. "Stay inside. Lock the door behind me." "He will kill you if you get between him and what he wants," Anna said, fear making her voice shake. "He will have to try." Philip checked his gun belt and headed for the door. "Philip, please." Anna caught his arm. "He is not worth dying over. I will go with him. I will figure something else out." He turned to face her fully, taking her shoulders gently in his hands. "Anna, look at me. I am not letting him take you. You are under my protection now. Lock the door and stay inside." He mounted his horse and rode toward the property boundary where Thomas had indicated. Sure enough, a man sat on a tired-looking mare, his face red and angry. He was older than Philip had expected, perhaps 40, with a thick build and cruel eyes. "You Foster," the man called out. "I am. You are trespassing on my land." "Name is James Hartley. I am looking for my wife. She ran off a few weeks back." "Woman about this tall, dark hair, pretty enough when she is not causing trouble. You seen her?" Philip kept his expression neutral. "Why would I have seen your wife?" "Because I tracked her this direction before I lost the trail. I know she came through this area." James's hand rested on his gun. "If you are hiding her, you are harboring stolen property. A wife belongs to her husband. A wife is not property, and I have not seen anyone matching that description." The lie came easily. Philip was not about to hand Anna over to this man. James studied him for a long moment. "You are lying. I can see it in your face. Where is she? I suggest you leave my property before I have you removed. You think you can take me, boy?" James sneered. "I will search every building on this ranch if I have to. You will leave now, or I will fetch the sheriff and have you arrested for trespassing and making threats." Philip's hand moved to his own gun. "Your choice." For a tense moment the two men stared at each other. Finally, James spat on the ground. "This is not over. She is my wife, legal and binding. The law is on my side. The law says a man cannot beat his wife half to death either, but I bet you did not worry about that." Philip kept his voice steady. "Leave, now." James turned his horse but called back over his shoulder. "I will be watching. When I catch her, and I will, you will be charged as an accomplice." Philip watched until James disappeared from sight, then rode back to the house. Anna was standing on the porch despite his instructions to stay inside, her face stricken. "He knows I am here," she said. "He will come back." "Let him try." Philip dismounted and tied his horse to the rail. "Anna, I meant what I said. You are under my protection. You do not understand what he is capable of. He will wait and watch, and the moment you let your guard down, he will strike." She was shaking now. "Maybe I should leave, go somewhere farther away. In your condition, with no money or supplies, you would not survive a week." Philip climbed the porch steps. "No, you stay here. We will figure this out." "How? The law is on his side, like he said. I am still legally his wife." Philip was quiet for a moment, an idea forming. It was bold, perhaps too bold, but it might be the only solution. "Not if you are married to someone else." Anna stared at him. "What? Marry me? If you are my wife legally, then he has no claim on you anymore." "That is insane," Anna said, but he could see her thinking it through. "You cannot just marry someone to save them from a bad situation." "Why not? People marry for all sorts of reasons. Land, money, convenience. This is not so different. It is completely different." "You would be tied to me forever just to protect me from James." Philip took a breath, deciding to risk honesty. "It would not be just about protection. Anna, these past 2 weeks, I have come to care for you deeply. I know the timing is terrible. I know you just escaped one marriage, but I am not James. I would never hurt you. I would give you a home, safety, respect. In time, if you wanted, maybe even more than that. But for now, it would keep you safe." Anna sank down onto the porch step, her head in her hands. "This is madness." "Maybe." He sat beside her. "But what else can we do? He will keep coming back. He will keep hunting for you. As my wife, you would be legally beyond his reach. What if I make you miserable? What if I am too damaged from what James did to ever be a proper wife to you? You could never make me miserable. And there is no timeline here, Anna. We would move at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Separate rooms if that is what you want. This would be real in the eyes of the law, but what it is between us would be ours to decide." She looked at him with those storm-gray eyes, searching his face for something. Whatever she found there must have satisfied her, because she nodded slowly. "All right, I will marry you. But Philip, you have to promise me something, anything. Promise me that if you come to regret this, if you meet someone you truly love, you will tell me. I will not trap you in a loveless marriage the way I was trapped with James." He took her hand gently. "I promise. Though I do not think that will be a problem." 3 days later, they stood before Reverend Matthews in the small church in Clifton Hill, with Thomas and the Reverend's wife as witnesses. Anna wore a simple blue dress that Philip had purchased for her from the general store, the first new dress she had owned in years. Her bruises had faded to yellow and green, still visible but healing. Philip wore his best suit, brushed clean and pressed as neatly as he could manage. When the Reverend asked if he took Anna to be his lawfully wedded wife, he said, "I do, with absolute certainty." Anna's voice shook slightly when she repeated her vows, but she looked him in the eye as she said them. The ring Philip slid onto her finger had belonged to his mother, a simple gold band that fit perfectly. "You may kiss your bride," Reverend Matthews said with a smile. Philip looked at Anna, silently asking permission. She nodded almost imperceptibly, and he leaned in to press a gentle kiss to her lips. It was brief and chaste, but he felt something shift in his chest at the contact. They signed the marriage certificate and returned to the ranch as husband and wife. The ride back was quiet, both of them processing what they had just done. "I can move my things into the spare room," Philip said as they entered the house. "Give you privacy in the main bedroom." Anna nodded, looking relieved. "Thank you. I know we are married now, but I need time." "Take all the time you need. I meant what I said, Anna. We move at your pace, whatever that is." Over the following weeks, they settled into married life. Anna proved to be an excellent cook and kept the house cleaner than it had ever been when Philip was living alone. She started a vegetable garden and began baking bread that was so good Thomas begged to buy extra loaves for his own family. Philip found himself falling more in love with her every day. The way she sang while cooking, the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, the way she looked at sunset with wonder in her eyes. But he kept his growing feelings to himself, not wanting to pressure her. For her part, Anna seemed to be healing, both physically and emotionally. Her feet scarred but grew strong again. The bruises faded completely. She smiled more, laughed more easily. She started to relax when Philip was near, no longer flinching when he moved too quickly. One evening about 6 weeks after their wedding, they were sitting on the porch together watching the stars emerge. It had become their routine, this quiet time together at the end of each day. "I have been thinking," Anna said suddenly, "about us." Philip's heart beat faster, but he kept his voice casual. "What about us? You have been so patient with me, so kind. You have asked for nothing even though you had every right as my husband to expect more than what I have given you." "Anna, I told you there is no timeline." "I know you did. But I want you to know that I am not afraid of you, not anymore. Maybe I never really was, but I had to be sure. After James, I had to be certain I could trust my own judgment." She turned to face him. "I trust you, Philip, completely." "I am glad," he said softly. "Your trust means everything to me. It is more than trust." She reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "I love you. I think I started falling for you when you washed my feet that first day, when you called me precious like I was something valuable instead of broken. I fought it because I was scared, but I cannot fight it anymore. I love you." Philip felt like his heart might burst. "Anna, I have loved you from the moment I saw you. Every day since has only made it stronger." She leaned in and kissed him, not the chaste kiss from their wedding, but a real kiss, deep and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "I am ready," she whispered, "to be your wife in every way if you still want me, want you." "Anna, I have wanted nothing else since the day you arrived." He stood and pulled her gently to her feet. "Are you sure?" "I have never been more sure of anything." He led her inside to the main bedroom, the one she had been using alone. What happened there was tender and gentle, Philip taking his time to show her what love could be like when it was given freely and received with joy. Anna cried, but this time from happiness rather than pain. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the moonlight streaming through the window. "I never knew it could be like that," Anna murmured against his chest. "Gentle and wonderful." "That is what it should always be like," Philip said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "What it will always be like between us." The next months passed in a blur of happiness. Anna blossomed, her smile coming quick and easy now. She proved to have a gift with the horses, able to gentle even the most skittish animals. Philip expanded the ranch, buying more cattle with the plan to build something lasting for their future. They had been married almost 6 months when trouble came back to find them. Philip was in town picking up supplies when he ran into Sheriff Coleman outside the general store. "Philip, glad I ran into you," the sheriff said, his expression grave. "I've had a man pestering me for weeks about you harboring his runaway wife. James Hartley says his name is." Philip felt his jaw tighten. "Anna is my wife now, legally married. She is not his anything anymore." "I figured there was more to the story." "He was pretty insistent, though, making threats about coming out to your ranch with some men to take her back by force." The sheriff shook his head. "I told him if he sets foot on your property, I will arrest him for trespassing, but I wanted to warn you to be on your guard." "I appreciate that, Sheriff. One more thing. He has been asking around about Anna, trying to find out if anyone knows anything about what happened between them. A few of the ladies from the church told him what Anna told Reverend Matthew's wife about the beatings and abuse. He did not take kindly to that, called them liars and worse. Philip thanked the sheriff and hurried home with the supplies, his mind racing. He found Anna in the garden, kneeling between rows of vegetables. "James is making trouble in town," he told her without preamble. "Sheriff says he is talking about coming here with men to take you back." Anna's face paled, but she stood up calmly. "Then we need to be ready." "I am not going to let him hurt you, Anna. I would die first, and I will not let you die for me." She brushed the dirt from her hands. "We are in this together now, remember, for better or worse." That night, Philip loaded his rifle and placed it by the door. He made sure all the windows were locked and the doors barred. They went to bed tense, listening for any sound outside. The attack came 3 days later, in the early hours before dawn. Philip woke to the sound of breaking glass and men's voices shouting. He grabbed his rifle and was at the bedroom door before Anna was fully awake. "Stay here," he commanded, but she was already reaching for the shotgun he had taught her to use. "I said we are in this together." They moved through the house carefully. Through the window, Philip could see 4 men, James among them, approaching the house with torches. "Anna Hartley, you come out here right now," James shouted, drunk by the sound of it. "You are my wife and you are coming home with me." Philip opened the door and stepped onto the porch, rifle raised. "Her name is Anna Foster now, and she is not going anywhere with you. Leave my property before someone gets hurt. You think you can steal another man's wife and get away with it?" James raised his own gun. "Boys, go get her." The other 3 men started forward but stopped when Anna appeared in the doorway beside Philip, her shotgun leveled at them. "I am not your wife anymore, James," she called out, her voice strong and clear. "I am legally married to Phillip Foster. You have no claim on me." "The hell I do not. You made vows before God. Vows you broke every time you raised your hand to me. Every time you came home drunk and mean. Every time you made me fear for my life." Anna stepped forward. "I am done being afraid of you." James aimed his gun at her and Philip moved instantly, putting himself between them. "You want her. You go through me first." "That can be arranged," James sneered, his finger moving toward the trigger. The shot that rang out did not come from James's gun or Philip's rifle. Sheriff Coleman stepped out of the shadows of the barn, his own weapon smoking. James dropped his gun, clutching his shoulder where the bullet had grazed him. His companions threw up their hands in surrender. "I warned you, Hartley," the sheriff said, walking forward with 2 deputies Philip had not noticed. "Told you what would happen if you came out here making trouble." "She is my wife," James shouted, even as the deputies grabbed him. "The law is on my side. The law says she is Anna Foster now, married legal to Philip there. The law also says you are under arrest for trespassing, making threats, and attempted assault." The sheriff nodded to Philip. "Thomas came and got me yesterday, said you might need help. Figured we would wait and catch them in the act." As the deputies hauled James and his friends away, James kept shouting threats and curses. Anna watched him go with her chin high and her shoulders back. When the lawman had gone, she finally lowered the shotgun, her hands shaking. Philip took it from her gently and set it aside before pulling her into his arms. "It is over," he murmured into her hair. "He is gone. You are safe." She clung to him, trembling. "I was so scared. When I saw him aim that gun at you, I thought my heart would stop. I know. I felt the same when he pointed it at you." He pulled back to look at her face. "But we stood together and we are both still standing." "Together," she echoed, managing a shaky smile. "I like the sound of that." The sheriff returned the next day to tell them that James would be spending time in jail for his actions, and that he had managed to get a statement from one of James's friends, admitting that James had beaten Anna regularly during their marriage. combined with the testimony from the ladies at church and the evidence of Anna's old injuries that Doc Morrison had documented. They had enough to make sure James would not be bothering her again for a long time. Even better, Sheriff Coleman added, the judge agreed to annul your first marriage on grounds of abuse and desertion. In the eyes of the law, it is like it never happened. You are free and clear, Mrs. Foster. Anna felt like a weight she had been carrying for 6 years suddenly lifted from her shoulders. That night, she and Phillip celebrated with a simple dinner and dancing in the kitchen to music only they could hear. Life settled into a peaceful rhythm after that. The ranch prospered, Phillip's hard work and Anna's careful management of their finances allowing them to expand their holdings. They hired 2 more ranch hands and built a new barn. Anna's garden grew larger each year, producing enough vegetables that she could sell the surplus in town. They grew deeper in love as the seasons changed. Phillip learned the subtle signs of when Anna was having a difficult day, memories of her past surfacing to haunt her. On those days, he would hold her and remind her that she was safe, that she was loved, that the past was behind her. Anna learned that Phillip carried his own scars, the loss of both parents before he was 25, the loneliness of building a ranch alone. She filled his life with warmth and laughter, making the house a true home. 2 years after their wedding, Anna discovered she was pregnant. She was terrified at first, memories of her own mother dying in childbirth haunting her. But Phillip was there through every moment of fear, every bout of morning sickness, every kick and flutter of the baby growing inside her. What if I am not a good mother? She asked one night as they lay in bed, his hand resting on her swollen belly. What if I am too damaged to raise a child properly? You are going to be an amazing mother, Phillip assured her. This child will be so loved, so wanted. That is what matters. What if something goes wrong? What if I die like my mother did? Doc Morrison will be here. I will be here. You are strong, Anna, stronger than you know. He kissed her forehead. We are going to be fine, all of us. Their son was born on a crisp autumn morning, coming into the world with a full head of dark hair and lungs that announced his arrival to half the county. Anna endured the labor with gritted teeth and determination, and when Doc Morrison placed the squalling infant in her arms, she wept with joy and relief. Phillip could not stop grinning as he looked at his wife and son. He is perfect, he said in awe. You are both perfect. They named him Peter, after Phillip's father. Little Peter proved to be a happy baby, quick to smile and fascinated by everything around him. Anna proved to be a natural mother despite her fears, patient and loving. Watching Anna with their son, Phillip sometimes thought back to that dusty evening when she had stumbled into his ranch yard, broken and desperate. The transformation was almost miraculous. She glowed with happiness now, her laughter filling the house, her touch confident and sure. What are you thinking about? Anna asked one evening, catching him watching her as she rocked Peter to sleep. Just how lucky I am, he said honestly. How that terrible situation brought me the greatest gift of my life. I am the lucky one, Anna countered. You saved me, Phillip. In every way a person can be saved. We saved each other, he corrected, kissing her softly. You gave me a reason to come home every day, a reason to build something lasting. You gave me a family. 2 years later, their second child arrived, a daughter they named Alice after Anna's mother. Peter was fascinated by his baby sister, always wanting to help with her care. The house rang with the sounds of children's laughter and occasional tears, the normal chaos of a growing family. Phillip expanded the ranch further, now employing 5 ranch hands and running over 200 head of cattle. He had become a respected member of the community, known for his fair dealing and hard work. Anna had become beloved in Clifton Hill, known for her kindness, and her work with the church helping other women in difficult situations. One spring afternoon, nearly 7 years after Anna had first arrived at the ranch, they stood together on the porch watching Peter and Alice play in the yard. Alice was chasing butterflies while Peter tried to teach her the names of all the flowers in Anna's garden. "You ever think about that first day?" Anna asked, leaning against Philip's side. "When I showed up here looking like something the cat dragged in." "All the time," Philip admitted. "Best day of my life, even though I did not know it then. I was so scared. Of you, of James finding me, of everything. I thought I would never feel safe again." She turned to look up at him. "You proved me wrong about so many things. You showed me that not all men are cruel, that love does not have to hurt, that I could have the family I always dreamed of." "You gave me the same gift," Philip said, pulling her close. "A home full of love and laughter, children to carry on after we are gone. A partner to face whatever life brings." He paused, then added with a grin, "Plus you make the best biscuits in 3 counties. Anna laughed and swatted his arm. "Is that all I am good for? Biscuits?" "Well, your pot roast is also excellent," he teased, then sobered. "Anna, you are everything to me. Everything. I love you more today than I did the day we married, and I will love you more tomorrow than I do today." "That is good," she said, reaching up to kiss him, "because I plan on spending the next 50 years with you, and I would hate for you to get bored." "Impossible. Life with you could never be boring." As the sun set over the Colorado mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold, they stood together watching their children play. The ranch that Philip had built alone had become a family legacy. The broken woman who had arrived covered in dust and bruises had become a beloved wife and mother. The lonely rancher who had shown kindness to a stranger had found the love of his life. Years continued to pass with the gentle rhythm of seasons. Peter grew tall and strong like his father, learning the ranching business with enthusiasm. Alice proved to have her mother's gentle way with injured creatures, nursing orphaned calves and wild birds back to health. 2 more children joined the family, twin boys named Samuel and William, who kept everyone on their toes with their boundless energy and mischief. Anna sometimes worked with Sheriff Coleman and Reverend Matthew's wife to help other women escape bad situations, offering them work or shelter or whatever they needed to start fresh. She never forgot how desperate she had been, how close to giving up. If she could help even one woman avoid the fate that had nearly claimed her, it was worth it. Philip supported her efforts fully, even when it meant opening their home to strangers. He understood that this was Anna's way of healing the last scars of her past, of taking something terrible and transforming it into hope for others. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Philip surprised Anna with a trip to Denver. They left the children with Thomas and his wife and spent 3 days in the city, staying in a fine hotel and eating in restaurants and attending the theater. It was a far cry from their simple ranch life, but Anna enjoyed the novelty of it. "This is wonderful," she said as they walked arm in arm down the street after dinner, "but I miss our home already." "Me too," Philip admitted. "Funny how a few days away makes you appreciate what you have even more." "I never thought I would have this," Anna said softly. "A husband who treats me with respect and love, healthy children, a home I actually want to be in. Sometimes I still cannot believe it is real. It is real. We made it real together." Philip stopped walking and turned to face her. "Anna, I know our marriage started as a way to protect you from James, but it became so much more than that. You are the love of my life, the center of my world. I want you to know that." "I do know it," Anna said, her eyes shining. "I feel it every day in the way you look at me, the way you are with our children, the way you support my work helping other women. You show me you love me constantly, even without words. Good, because I plan on spending the rest of my life showing you. They returned home to find the children had made welcome home signs, and Alice had picked flowers from the garden to decorate the house. That night, lying in their own bed with the familiar sounds of the ranch around them, they both agreed that as wonderful as the trip had been, there was no place they would rather be than home. More years passed. Peter married a nice girl from town named Sarah and brought her home to the ranch, building a small house on the property with Philip's help. Alice followed her passion for healing and went to study nursing in Colorado Springs, writing long letters home about her studies and patients. The twins grew into strapping young men who could rope and ride as well as anyone. Philip's hair started to gray at the temples, and Anna laughed at the fine lines appearing around her eyes, but they both wore their age comfortably. They had built a good life together, weathered storms both literal and figurative, and come through it all stronger. One evening, nearly 20 years after Anna had first arrived at the ranch, they sat together on the porch watching the sunset as they had done thousands of times before. Peter and Sarah's children, their grandchildren, played in the yard under Sarah's watchful eye. The ranch stretched out before them, prosperous and thriving. "You remember," Anna said quietly, "that first night when you washed my feet, when you called me precious?" "I remember every detail of that night," Philip said. "How could I forget?" "I thought you were either crazy or an angel," Anna admitted. "No man had ever touched me with such gentleness. It made me want to cry." "You were precious then and you are precious now," Philip said firmly. "The most precious thing in my life. I love you, Phillip Foster. Thank you for seeing something worth saving in a broken woman covered in dust and bruises. Thank you for trusting me enough to stay, for giving me your heart, for building this life with me." He took her hand, his thumb tracing over the wedding band she still wore, now joined by an anniversary band he had given her on their 15th year together. "I would do it all again in a heartbeat." "So would I," Anna said, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Every moment, every challenge, every joy, all of it." As the sun dipped below the mountains and the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, they sat together in comfortable silence. The sounds of their grandchildren's laughter floated on the evening air. Somewhere in the distance, cattle lowed and horses whinnied in the corrals. It was the symphony of their life, the music of the home they had built together. The ranch that had begun as Philip's solitary dream had become a family legacy that would continue for generations. The woman who had arrived broken and desperate had become the heart of a family, respected in the community, beloved by all who knew her. The man who had shown kindness to a stranger had been rewarded with a love deeper and truer than he had ever imagined possible. They had faced down demons both real and remembered. They had fought for their right to be together. They had built something beautiful from the ashes of Anna's past and the loneliness of Philip's solitary existence. And every day, in 1,000 small ways, they chose each other all over again. When they were very old, their children and grandchildren gathered around them often, wanting to hear the story of how they met. Anna would tell them about arriving at the ranch more dead than alive, about the kind rancher who took her in despite having every reason to turn her away. Philip would add details about washing her feet, about how even battered and bruised she had been the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, about how he had whispered the word precious without even meaning to, knowing somehow that this woman would change his life forever. The grandchildren would sigh at the romance of it, would smile at the parts about their wedding and first years together. The older ones understood more of the darkness that preceded the happy ending, appreciated more deeply the courage it had taken for Anna to run and for Philip to protect her. But the part they all loved best was the ending, The part where Anna would take Philip's weathered hand in her own and say, "And we lived happily ever after, just like in the fairy tales." Except this was real, and it was even better than any fairy tale because we chose it every single day. Phillip Foster and Anna Sinclair Foster lived long lives full of love and laughter, surrounded by family and friends, respected members of their community. When they finally passed, many years and many memories later, they were buried side by side in the cemetery overlooking the ranch, their headstones simple but elegant. The ranch continued on through their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, each generation adding to the legacy while honoring the foundation that Philip and Anna had built. The story of the rancher who saved the desperate woman, who washed her feet and called her precious, who married her to protect her and loved her for the rest of his life, became part of the family history, told and retold until it took on the quality of legend. But to those who had known them, who had seen the way they looked at each other even after decades of marriage, who had witnessed the gentle touches and soft words and absolute devotion, it was no legend. It was simply the truth of a love that had conquered fear and pain and built something lasting and beautiful in the wild country of Colorado. The house still stood on the ranch 100 years later, carefully preserved by descendants who understood its significance. The porch where Philip and Anna had sat watching sunsets together had been rebuilt more than once but always in the same style, honoring the original. The bedroom where they had shared their lives was maintained as it had been, a testament to the love that had filled it. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the sun set over the mountains in brilliant colors, people swore they could feel the presence of two souls who had loved each other deeply, who had built a legacy of kindness and strength, who had proved that even the darkest beginnings could lead to the happiest of endings. Their story lived on, a reminder that love could heal, that kindness mattered, that seeing someone as precious could change not just their life but your own. It was a testament to the power of choosing love over fear, hope over despair, together over alone. In the end, that dusty evening when Anna Sinclair stumbled into Phillip Foster's ranch yard covered in dust and bruises had been the beginning of something extraordinary. What started as an act of simple human kindness had blossomed into a love story for the ages, proving that sometimes the most broken things could be made whole, and that true love was worth fighting for, worth building a life around, worth everything.